What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. So it is exciting at the Senzo trial. What is happening is that Muhlahlo arrived at the Khumalo house and took a picture of the door of that Khumalo house. And in his picture, Muhlahlo, there were splinters on that door. Then a few minutes later on, Chris Mangena then arrived and took his own pictures. But however, on his pictures, there were no splinters on that door.
To put the two photos side by side.
Okay.
We've checked with advocate Nisi. He's satisfied with the two photos.
I want us to be very sincere. They say photos don't lie unless they've been manipulated. I've got reason to believe that that's not the case here. These photos have not been manipulated. Do you see any difference yourself between these two photos?
When one
I mean, as an expert.
Malo, the only difference on these two photos is that the splinters in this one, these splinters here, fell down and then they are not there.
You're saying the only difference that you're able to identify is that on the photos that were taken by Warrant Officer Muhlahlo, splinters of the wooden door are visible, whilst on the photos that were, on the photo that was taken yourself, the splinters that are visible on Warrant Officer Muhlahlo's photo are not visible on yours, not so?
That's correct, Malo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Do you agree that that is the same door?
That's correct, Malo.
Do you also agree that these photos were taken the same day?
Malo, I don't know when was this photo taken, but that photo was taken on the 27th, day after the incident.
This is the day on which these two photos were taken. And would you agree with me that a probable cause or reason why there could not be splinters on the photos that is depicted on the right-hand side, as there are splinters on the photos on the left-hand side, the probable cause thereof would be that somebody might have removed them?
Malo, I cannot exclude that possibility, and I also cannot exclude the possibility that when the door closes, because those splinters are very loose hanging there. If you close the door hard, they will fall also.
So the point of contention that is occurring at the courtroom is that how can those two pictures be different? Obviously, both of them were taken by different people, but they were taken on the same day on 27 October 2014. Both of them were taken in the morning, but how can they be different? This is on the same position, the door of the Khumalo house at the kitchen. The first picture by Muhlahlo is splinters, but that one that has been taken by Mangena, it has no splinters. And these splinters are defined as like these small, sharp, broken pieces of wood or other material that is broken off from a door. The reason why this piece of evidence is very, very important is that it helps to explain exactly what happened inside the Khumalo house. Those splinters, they tell us a lot of things, but Mangena's pictures, he has no splinters now. So looking at the first person Muhlahlo's evidence of splinters, now if you try to imagine like what can cause those splinters is that they can be caused by a damage or an impact of a force, like for example, when people are fighting or somebody kicks the door with a heavy force, that's when those splinters can then come. And if it is the case that the door itself was hit by this impact, it definitely suggests that there was this tussle, this fighting inside the house. And we all know that there is this allegation of Longwe, Twala and Zandile Khumalo fighting inside that house. And if it is indeed true that they were fighting, the door could have been hit by somebody being thrown at the door or being kicked and somebody getting outside of the house and running away. Obviously, somebody can come in and try to suggest that maybe the door was shot at and that's why there are these splinters. But on Muhlahlo's picture, there is no through hole. So this assertion that it might be a bullet that might have shot it at the door, it does not count here. So what might count is this tussle, this fight that might have occurred between Longwe Twala and Zandile Khumalo. So that's why there is this questioning that is going to Chris Mangena himself. In the defense, it was more of like trying to accuse Mangena of tampering with the evidence of removing those splinters on that door. So if the splinters were removed, maybe Mangena himself might be innocent. He might have just came in and just took the pictures. But what is also evident is that the crime scene was also cleaned. So you never know, those splinters were removed by this neighbor who came in to clean the house. Then Mangena came in and took the picture. So what complicates this matter even more is that there was a bullet projectile that was discovered inside that Khumalo house, and it was found on the kitchen counter behind glass jars when these inspections were being done a day after the incident. So the argument now is that this bullet might have been planted because the defense also argues that there are initial officers who came into that scene, into that house. They did not even locate that bullet projectile. But other officers who then came in later, they then found that bullet projectile on the kitchen sink there. And this time now, when they found that bullet projectile, the splinters on the door were no longer there. This is where the contention is at. So obviously, the defense, they did not mention the story of Longwe Twala and Zandile Khumalo, but you can clearly see by analyzing all of this evidence that it definitely comes in here. Because if they argue that this bullet projectile was actually planted and these door splinters were then removed, and if we look at this first evidence of Mhlahlo's picture with splinters on the door, where could they have come from? Obviously from a tussle, from an impact of a force that would have hit the door. And that's where Longwe Twala and Zandile Khumalo then come in now. So what is also interesting is that Judge Rata is not even ruled on this matter of these splinters. He is just listening while he is in the courtroom. The only ruling that he has made so far, it is that of the confessions from these accused. As for the splinters, he has not made a ruling yet. So when it comes to the presence of the splinters, there is no clear explanation, or even in the trial itself, as to where exactly those splinters came from and where they disappeared to. So that's where this argument of evidence tampering is now coming in. So what is also interesting is that both these photos of Chris Mangena and Mhlahlo are actually being used as evidence in this trial, despite there being a clear difference between them. So whose pictures should actually be used? Chris Mangena is coming in with the argument that the splinters on those doors might have fallen off because the door was being opened and being closed. But if it is that the case, then they should have been found on the floor. And the challenge that is there is that those splinters were not even found on the floor. So this definitely brings us to the next point. And that next point is that what that means, as per Chris Mangena, is that the crime scene was definitely cleaned. And there is proof of Magipiri getting into the house and actually cleaning that crime scene. So this is really crazy if you think about it and analyze it by bringing everything that is being said about in the courtroom. Because Chris Mangena's evidence is now questionable. His picture specifically that you took, it definitely tells us that there might have been tampering that might have occurred, which obviously then brings into question this bullet projectile that was found on the kitchen sink. So what is the ruling that might be given in such a scenario here? More collaborative evidence is needed to support Mhlahlo's pictures and Chris Mangena's pictures. If that collaborative evidence is not found, then it is going to be difficult to stick with Chris Mangena's evidence. So tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.